Number 8. Washington Metro collision. On June the 22nd of 2009, two southbound trains collided on the Red Line Washington Metro, resulting in the deadliest disaster in the line's operating history. The main factor was a recently installed track circuit component, which suffered from electronic oscillation. Because of this, a stretch of the track could no longer reliably report when it was occupied by a train. Train 214 had stopped due to traffic between Tacoma and Fort Totten stations. It was in range of the faulty circuit and thus invisible to the automatic train detection system. As such, Train 112, which was approaching from the rear, was cleared to circulate at full speed. It wasn't until the stopped train came into full view that the emergency brake was activated on the oncoming train. By then, however, it was too late. 112 struck at 49 miles per hour, with its lead car telescoping over the rear of the stationary train. Several passengers were ejected by the sheer force of the impact. One person was thrown on the roof of the stopped train, suffering a severe head wound. 9 people died, including the operator of 112, while at least 80 others were injured. Number 7. 2000 Nakameguro derailment. On March the 8th of 2000, a train derailment near the Nakameguro station in Tokyo left 5 people dead and 63 others injured. Immediately before the station, the rearmost car on a TRTA Hibiya Line train derailed on a tight curve. It was then sideswiped by a train traveling in the opposite direction. The fatalities and high number of injuries was attributed to the accident occurring at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday when the trains were packed. The distance between the tracks, not accounting for the width of the cars, only allowed for a spare space of roughly 600 millimeters. This meant that, in case of derailment, contact between trains was inevitable. At the time, derailments weren't automatically detected by track circuits, and there had been little time to warn the crew of the incoming train. Number 6. Daegu subway fire. On February the 18th of 2003, 56-year-old former taxi driver Kim Dae-han boarded a train in the direction of Daegok Station in Daegu, South Korea. He was carrying a duffel bag with 2 milk carts containing flammable liquid. Dae-han had suffered a stroke a few years prior, which led to him becoming partially paralyzed. He was unhappy with his medical treatment and had expressed feelings of depression and violence. According to a police investigation, the man had planned to take his own life in a crowded place. As he was trying to ignite the cartons with a cigarette lighter, a struggle ensued with other passengers. The cartons spilled, and the content lit up as train 1079 pulled into Jonggangno Station. Dae-han's back and legs caught fire, but he and many other passengers managed to escape. Within 2 minutes, the fire spread to all 6 cars, and they were overcome by toxic fumes and thick black smoke. The rapid escalation of the blaze was facilitated by plastic materials and the insulation between the aluminium layers forming the shell of the cars. Automatic fire detection systems had cut off power supply to 1079, but also to train 1080, which had pulled alongside it at the station. The blaze extended to the second train, and its conductor fled in panic, removing the master key. This caused the batteries which powered the doors to shut down and seal the passengers inside. Daegu subway trains didn't have emergency lighting or fire extinguishers. Many victims suffocated in the darkness, looking for a way out. 192 people died, most of them burned beyond recognition, and 151 others were injured. On account of his remorse and mental instability, Dae-han was not given the death penalty and instead sentenced to life imprisonment. Number 5. Incident at De Akkers. In early November of 2020, near the Dutch city of Rotterdam, the front car of a subway train was stopped from plummeting to the ground by a giant sculpture. Only the operator was aboard when the train broke through the buffers at the De Akkers metro station, and he'd managed to get out in time. Instead of falling, the front car stopped on one of 2 giant whale-tail sculptures from the pond below. They'd been installed at the end of the station by architect Martin Strauch. The front car hung precariously about 33 feet above ground, delicately balanced on the tail. Strauch told a media outlet that he was surprised that the sculpture, which was made out of plastic, was strong enough to support the train. An investigation was launched into the incident, while the train was subsequently removed by 2 cranes working in tandem. Number 4. Malbone Street Wreck. The Malbone Street Wreck of 1918 is remembered as the deadliest accident to have occurred in the history of the New York City subway. It happened on November the 1st during the last days of World War I. A strike that morning by a labor union operating elevated trains in the city had caused a shortage of available motormen. Antonio Edward Luciano was pressured into service during the strike emergency. He was a crew dispatcher with no experience on the Brighton Beach line or with operating elevated trains. While heading towards Prospect Park Station, Luciano entered a sharp curve at 30 to 40 miles per hour, even though it had been designed to be taken at 6 miles per hour. The back wheels of the first car derailed. The second and third cars, which were the most severely damaged, flew completely off the tracks, shattering their left sides and their roofs. The passengers were trapped in what the New York Times would later describe as a darkened jungle of steel, dust, and wood splinters, glass shards, and iron beams projecting like bayonets. The wreck then ignited, filling the tunnel with smoke. Aside from the speed and Luciano's inexperience, the serpentine layout of the tunnel and the individual weight of the wooden cars were also considered contributing factors. 93 to 102 people were killed, while countless others suffered injuries. Luciano and the company running the train were put on trial for manslaughter, but all were eventually either acquitted or had their indictments dropped. Number 3. Valencia Metro Derailment. On July the 3rd of 2006, a devastating metro derailment took place in the Spanish city of Valencia. According to the train's black box, it struck a curve between the Jesus and Placia de España stations at 50 miles per hour, which was more than twice the required speed. The ensuing derailment caused the car to overturn. At least 45 people were killed and 47 others were injured. The operator, who was declared fully responsible, also perished in the crash. However, a trade union later accused the authorities of rushing to release a statement and for admitting that Line 1 had been in a state of constant deterioration. It was also reported that part of a wall in a tunnel between the stations may have collapsed, causing one carriage to derail and the one behind it to overturn. Valencia's government was suspected of downplaying the incident, as it had occurred just days before Pope Benedict XVI was due to visit the city as part of a gathering with over 1 million expected pilgrims. Many called for a reopening of the investigation after a 2013 report revealed that the Book of Train Breakdowns was never found. Today's topic was requested by Puddle Slim's Master and Romella Kami. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Moorgate Tube Crash. With 43 fatalities and 74 injured, the Moorgate Tube Crash is regarded as the worst peacetime disaster to take place on the London Underground. It occurred on February the 28th of 1975. Instead of stopping at Moorgate Station, the terminus of the Northern City Line, the train crashed into the end wall at full speed. A safety implement, called the dead man's handle, was never pulled and the brakes weren't activated. The first carriage was forced into the roof while the third rode over the rear of the second. It took 13 hours to remove the passengers from the crash, and many of them had to be cut out. The coach, which was 50 feet long, had been compressed to 20 feet. Extensive injuries found nothing at fault with the train, concluding that the responsibility of the crash rested on its operator, 56-year-old Leslie Newson. His was the last body to be extracted from the wreck, and it took 4 days to remove his remains from the crushed cabin. What had caused Newson to drive the train into the wall remains a mystery to this day. Eyewitness testimonies from people waiting on the platform claimed that the motorman was sitting upright and looking forward with his hands apparently on the controls. His uniform was neat and he still had his hat on. Various theories have been proposed, including suicide, transient global amnesia, which would have caused temporary but total memory loss, or akinesis with mutism, a condition that would have rendered Newson unable to move or speak. An automated kill switch, informally known as Moorgate Protection, was subsequently introduced to the London Underground to stop trains from going too fast. Number 1. 1995 Baku Metro Fire. The deadliest subway disaster in history took place on October the 28th of 1995 in Baku, the capital city of Azerbaijan. It consisted of conflagration, likely caused by an electrical fault between the Ulduz and Nariman-Narimanov stations. Because of the malfunction which occurred during the 6 p.m. rush, the train stopped about 650 feet from Ulduz. The tunnel became filled with smoke as the fire rapidly spread through the cars. Carbon monoxide from the burning of synthetic materials affected the passengers. They started breaking the windows trying to escape the suffocating fumes. Many were trampled to death in the ensuing chaos. Some were electrocuted as they grabbed the cables, desperate to escape the blazing train. 40 bodies were found in the tunnel, while most of the others were recovered from inside the train, having succumbed to crushing injuries from the stampede. The disaster claimed 289 lives, according to official reports. Electrical fault from Soviet-era equipment remained the leading theory, but two large mysterious holes on the side of one carriage suggested potential sabotage through the use of explosives. The metro operator and the station traffic controller were convicted of criminal negligence and sentenced to 15 and 10 years in prison, respectively. Thanks for watching. Would you rather travel to work for 20 minutes every day in a completely packed subway, or 1 hour by car in bumper-to-bumper traffic? Let us know in the comments section below.